Hi everyone! Today we're going to compare the British with the American sound chart. Both of those are from Adrian Underhill, and we're going to have a look at the similarities and differences. Let's start. So you can see the British English sound chart is on the left and the American English one is on the right. And both of them are really divided into three sections. One section for the monophthongs, the single vowel sounds, one for the diphthongs, and then at the bottom, one for the consonants. That is the same. However, they don't look exactly the same. So what's different? Let's look at the consonants first. Just compare the two charts for a minute. And hopefully you were actually able to see that there is no difference here. This is the good news. The consonant section is exactly the same in both of the charts. We have exactly 24 consonants in the British English chart as well as the American English chart. So the differences are not with the consonants, but with the vowel sounds. So let's have a look at the monophthongs next. And if you quickly just compare the two, you'll notice a few differences. First of all, the British English chart has 12 sounds here, but the American chart has only 11. One of the boxes is empty, so there's one sound missing. Another difference is that the British English chart shows vowel length using the two dots, the colon. But that symbol is missing in the American vowel chart. That does not mean that we don't have a difference in vowel length in American English. It just means that this is not included in the American English chart. However, once you start transcribing words or sentences, using these symbols, and the sentences are spoken by a person with an American accent, you will still use the suprasegmental to show vowel length. So let's have a look at the first sound symbol that is different. It's in the second row because the first row there is no difference really. But in the second row the symbol looks slightly different. In British English we have the sound Ö, it's a long vowel sound. And remember that British English is a non-rhotic accent. But in American English, the sound is followed by the little letter R, and the sound is er. And that is because American English is a rhotic accent. So here are a couple of example words for the sound. Of course, the words also exist in British English, and in fact, I will read them out in British English first and then American English. So we have her, bird, work. That would be non-rhotic British English, but in American English, the sound changes more to er. So the words are her, bird, work. So there's a little r sound almost attached to the ö. Now sometimes this sound symbol looks a little bit different. It's also written as a 3 with this little tail, and that's really, it's kind of like the R has been integrated into the 3. So you might see either of the two, but they refer to the same sound. Now let's have a look at the last difference here, and that is the sound ah. We have it in British English. I put a little box around it, but as you can see in American English, this box is empty. This sound is not included in American English, and that is because it's not really used in American English. So you think, okay, wait a second, how do people pronounce the word clock in American English? Good question. Let's have a look. So we've got the word clock in British English, and we would have a clear O sound. It's short. We have K, L, O, K, clock. But in American English, we don't use the O sound, but instead it would be a long A. So it sounds more like clock, clock. And if you know anything about the monophthongs, you will know that the sound is a little bit more open, not quite as closed. And I feel you can feel this when you say the two words. So first again, British English, clock, and American English, clock. It's a bit more open. And it's also long. All right, okay. Now let's move on to the diphthongs. And again, you can see those two sections look quite different. So first of all, we have 8 diphthongs in British English, but only 5 in American English. That section is a lot smaller. So there are a couple of diphthongs that are missing in American English. The first one is the diphthong ear, and I put a little star next to it. And so here's an example word for the diphthong ear. Fear, fear. Now obviously the word fear exists also in American English, and you probably think, well wait, how do they pronounce it and how do they transcribe it? So fear in British English is fear in American English, fear. So it sounds very similar, I think, but it's really transcribed differently, and if you look carefully, you will notice that the schwa is missing. Fear. And therefore, the word is a little bit shorter. The next difference is the diphthong U is missing in the American English chart. Now, there's something special about this sound anyway. In fact, there are quite a lot of British English sound charts, not the one from Adrian Underhill, but maybe other ones, that do not include this diphthong anymore in British English either. And that is really because the standard of British English, that we also call RP, received pronunciation, has changed over time, and words such as tour are not really pronounced with the ur diphthong, but very often nowadays we just say tor, tor. And so the diphthong is not included in the American chart, and like I said, actually quite often it's not included in the British English chart either anymore. So the word tour can be tour with the diphthong, or tor with a long or in American English, tour, tour. So we have the short o followed by a r, tour. And again, that is because if you have a look at the spelling of the word, it ends in an r. And I told you earlier that British English is non-rhotic, and so in British English we do not pronounce this r, but in American English we do, which is why we have the r sound here, tour, and it sounds different. It's really said with a rhotic accent. Now next we can see that there's a difference here in the symbol used for the diphthong, the last diphthong in the second row. It's not left out, it's not really such a big difference. It's just that instead of, first of all, the diphthong is O, and instead of the schwa sound at the start, we're going to use a O symbol. And so here's an example word for British English. We have the word go, go, and in American English, go, go. And if you think, hold on, they sound the same to me, yeah, I don't blame you. I feel it's really difficult to hear a big difference. You can listen to them again in the dictionary. I was listening for a long time and I felt, yeah, there is a very small little difference, but it's subtle and not easy to hear. So the sound exists in both of the charts, but we use slightly different symbols, and there is a tiny little difference in pronunciation. The next one is there's a bit of a bigger difference, and that is the diphthong air. We have it in British English as a full diphthong. It's an eh followed by a schwa, and there's an example word here, hair, hair. And in American English, the same word, hair, hair. Again, you can see that the r is a lot more prominent, and there is no schwa anymore. Hair, hair. So the air is just followed by a r. And that is, again, because this is a rhotic accent and the schwa has been left out. There's a little elevated r in British English, but that can even be left out. And some people might really just say hair, and there's no r whatsoever. And it's fully non-rhotic. And the other two diphthongs are the same. So we have come to the end of our comparison between the British English and the American English sound chart from Adrian Underhill. But there's one more thing that I want to tell you about. And that is a slight alternative in symbol use in the American chart. So yes, this is the American sound chart as developed by Adrian Underhill. However, in quite a few of the American sound charts that might use different fonts and a slightly different arrangement, you will see alternative symbols used for some of the sounds. The first alternative symbol I have just put in the chart on the left. Both of them are now the American English sound charts. And you can see that the sound eh has a different alternative symbol, and it really looks like a 3 that has been mirrored, and I put it in a little yellow box for you. And so quite often when you have words like bed or every, you will see this symbol instead in American English. So I put it here for you at the bottom. The word bed can be transcribed as bed with the symbol that we've seen before, or not the new symbol, it's the symbol that looks like a mirrored 3. And that is very common for American sound charts. Another difference is the one that I actually showed you already earlier, the where you have the r integrated into the sound symbol. And again, here's another example for the word girl. We can have either or, okay? You can use both of those symbols, but the other one is also quite common. And then there is one difference with the consonants. Now the sound is the same really, but the r sound has a different symbol alternative, and it's literally the same, just upside down. And here's an example, 2 transcriptions for the same word, and the word is right. So we have r-ite, but the r, there are 2 different symbols. And you might see either or. Now the question is probably, why are there different symbols? And that is because these alternative symbols in the yellow boxes are really the original sound symbols from the IPA, and that is the International Phonetic Alphabet. And that is an alphabet that contains symbols for all the sounds of all the languages in the world. And so the and r, the symbols that you can see in the IPA, are the ones in the yellow boxes. And so you think, why did Adrian Underhill not use those? And the answer is, I don't know. I think maybe because they look a little bit more complicated, and the alternatives that he used in the chart are just a bit easier for people to remember, because they're essentially, for the and the r, they're the same as the letters of the alphabet. And then of course the other one is maybe just a bit easier to write down. Right, if you have any more questions about phonology, pronunciation, or the sound charts, please leave a message below. Remember, I have videos on the full phonemic chart as well as the vowel chart and the diphthongs. Just have a look at my channel.